It's all good. Okay, so smudging. I don't know if you guys are familiar with smudging at all, but we're here to make it simple, very simple, and take kind of any intimidation out of it whatsoever. There's no right way, no wrong way. In the end, you're going to realize it just is whatever feels right for you. So some of the stuff we're going to be covering is what is smudging, when to smudge, like what your intentions would be, the different areas and physical objects that you can smudge, different tools that are completely optional while you're smudging. That kind of just becomes your own ritual and deciding what feels right for you. The different smudging herbs and resins and mixes and oils, there's lots of variety. And then we'll go over some safety stuff and then have time for questions. So basically, what is smudging? Smudging is burning some type of material with an intention. So whether it's a herb or whether it's a resin or an oil, you're burning something in order to clear a space, purify a space, add protection. We'll go over all of the different intentions, but that is when to smudge. You basically have a reason, and then you choose your substance that you'd like to burn, but we'll go in more in depth in that in a few minutes. What can you smudge is basically like anything that you feel like needs smudging. If we touch base on some of the intentions, the main ones would be to clear space of all negativity, of anything old or stagnant, to purify a space. That's a word that people use separately from cleansing a space. When you're going to purify a space, it's to do a ritual or it's to do a meditation. You're basically wanting a pristine environment with clean energy in order to open yourself up to the communications of other energies or spirits. Protection is another big one. A lot of times purification mixes will have protection herbs in it as well, just because you want the protection when you're opening yourself up to that kind of stuff. Some people will burn specifically to let the spirits know that they're going to meditate. So I'm going to meditate, I want to connect with my spirit guide or whatever. There's certain herbs that are basically telling the universe that you're open to communication. More specifically, some people will burn substances for invoking a spirit. So they want a specific, whether it's their angel, whether it's a past loved one. There's just so many different ways to get the information that you're looking for. So like smudging doesn't necessarily have to be like what we all first imagine, which is cleaning that space. There's many different intentions. Quite frequently, people will have like an altar that they have. That's where they keep their crystals and gemstones and oils and all that. So sometimes just in giving thanks, you'll burn a certain substance just to say thank you, just to acknowledge that you got that information.
Somebody's here.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think they want that seat.
I just seen it going.
Yeah, I never even
noticed. Well, then
noticed.
maybe I'll let them sit beside me. Okay.
You just bring them with you, don't you?
I tell you. This is why I need to smudge.
Well, I don't sense anything negative, so that's good.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
Good.
That's funny, though. So smudging tools. There's lots of different things that people have at their altar, whether it's an altar broom or a certain shell or feathers or crystals that they burn with. Basically, tools are just, they're not necessity at all. That's just something very personal. You really only need the herb and something to burn with, but feathers are quite typically used. Feathers, first of all, they represent bringing messages out to spirit. They carry messages. They're part of the wind element, or air element. So they're going to carry messages. So a lot of the intention behind using a feather would be just to confirm your intention that you want this carried out, that you're expecting this to be done. There's no right feather, there's no wrong feather. Quite frequently people are wanting a hawk feather or an eagle feather. They're illegal to sell. Any bird of prey feathers are illegal to sell. So if you find one, then you are very, very blessed. And I would use it because it was given to you for that reason. But any type of feather will work. Like we do a lot of goose feathers. We collect them ourselves. Turkey feathers are the most common. Generally, if you do buy a turkey feather or a eagle feather off the internet, it is a turkey feather that has been dyed because they're just not allowed to sell them. We learned that by purchasing our first bunch and then realized that they weren't actually. And then there is a little disclaimer at the bottom of a lot of these websites that say they sell them as eagle feathers, but there's a little disclaimer saying that, you know, it's a faux eagle feather because you're not allowed to sell them. So whether you use one feather or 6 feathers or different kinds of feathers, you can use them singly. You can buy them like this, but I mean, if you've got a nice collection, whip it up and that'll just give your smudging feather that much more energy. It's your intention, your energy behind it. Different things to burn on. So when you're using a stick or even charcoal with resin and that, you're going to need something to burn it on. So if you're just burning the herb, you're going to want even just a tea plate at home, a little coffee plate or whatever, and you're basically holding it like this and going around your home just so it can catch the ashes. A lot of people feel very strongly about using a shell while they're smudging. A very common shell is the abalone shell, which I don't have one to show you right now, but it's just more of a round shell with a kind of a purple hue to it. But any type of shell, and if you don't have a shell, you can just use, like I said, a dinner plate or something. Most commonly, it is a shell. Other tools you can use, so depending on whether or not you're burning a resin and charcoal is involved. If charcoal is involved, you're not burning it on a plate, you're not burning it in an ashtray, it will definitely crack it. So that's when you want to use a shell and then put the shell on a plate still. You can also use like a flat rock. There's always a way of doing it cheaper and free. So if you can get like a nice flat rock that will absorb all the heat from the charcoal, then you're fine using that as well. On my altar at home, I have a couple shells, but I still have the shells on the flat rock. But I also just have flat rocks in kind of a dish, just so I can burn different things on it. The rock is the safest way to go, but again, you can use your shell. That's not a problem. A smudge out. These are something that we made just kind of as a safety thing. We had a couple people come in and tell us stories of when they put their smudge stick out. An hour later, they came home and it had burned all the way through. So if you just stick them in something like this, it will basically just burn it out. There'll be no oxygen to get into it. We'll go over that a little more with the safety stuff in that. So those are some of the tools. Again, the only other thing you would use is an oil burner, possibly, to burn different oils on. You don't want to put charcoal in one of those either. It will definitely crack it. So moving on to what can you smudge? So literally anything. Most commonly you hear people burning sage and that to clear their home or their space and that. You can do your car, like a lot of people will get a new car and smudge their car, or if they're getting in a lot of little fender benders, they'll do a protection one. That's a common one that we see. But yourself, like absolutely, you can just smudge yourself. If you're coming home from work and you're just feeling all this heavy yuck on you, then you can light it. Do it to your kids, your pets even. There's many times my kids come, yep, I'm standing at the door when they're walking in from school, and yep, that's right. They're like, no. I'm like, yes, definitely. Pets again too, like pets are very sensitive, so I don't know if you have pets, but if you got a lot of activity going on, it can stress some pets out, so you can protect them that way. You can also just smudge their energy if you think they're actually picking up and carrying around energy that isn't theirs. You can definitely go ahead and do that. New things, new old things that you bring in your house. So people who collect a lot of antiques or books, especially thrift shop books and that, they carry big energies. So if you're very sensitive to energies coming into your environment, anything that you get from a garage sale or a thrift place or an antique place, fantastic idea, just to kind of and do it with intention. So don't, you could just smudge your home and that would be fine. It would get some of it. But if you know you brought something new into the house, even if it's new, you bought it from Walmart or something, other people are there and touching it and that. So you could definitely just put the intention in to have this cleared up as well. Antiques are big. I have a lot of people, when they come in, I can kind of read that they like to collect things, and just from pins and stuff that they're wearing, and they'll start talking to me about energies and smudging and that, and I ask them, because it's so obvious that they're bringing in a lot of antiques or books. Books is another one, magazines as well. Anything that has a history to it and that could have passed through different people's hands and spaces and that. Your office. So a lot of people will say, like, I need to clear my office, but I can't go and burn sage there, which is understandable for most places. That's where I would recommend an oil. Like if you just have an oil burner there, generally people won't say too much about it. You can kind of hide it, and it doesn't smell any stronger than just a mild air freshener type thing, especially if it's an office. And basically any oil. We only carry pure essential oils, so you're going to get the plant elements and properties in it. So if you're getting sweetgrass or cedar, then it's actually the cedar plant that oil comes from, so it'll be just as beneficial and just as strong for sure.
So with an oil burner, do you like just put oil in that top little cup, or is it with like water and a couple drops?
Yeah, you see, and you generally people will just put oil in it. I always recommend people put a tablespoon of water in it. When you're burning just the oil, it will burn very quickly, and it will be very concentrated in a small area. So if you add a little bit of water to it, it's going to disperse it further out, and you can add a little bit more water as it burns down, and then just a couple more drops. If you're just putting like 3-4 drops in with a candle underneath, it'll take 5 to 10 minutes for that oil to burn out, like especially if it's just a couple drops. Whereas if you add a tablespoon of water, you've got a good half an hour, and it will do it much more. It'll do it slower, and it'll carry it out through the house more, and it'll stay a bit longer too because there's moisture in the air. It's not just burn, poof, gone. So, yeah. Okay, so we actually that's what we'll do now. Then we'll go over some of the lots of different variety. Again, there's no really right or wrong herb. If you're walking in the forest and you're just totally drawn to this plant, I always burn it just a little bit. I'll take a couple leaves of it and I'll burn it, and it'll be fine. Like I won't take a lot of it, and partly because some plants are toxic, and when I'm out walking and I'm called to a plant, I don't know necessarily what it is every time, but I know when I'm called to it. So sometimes I'll just bring it home and put it on my altar for a few days for it to dry, and I'll just burn it a little bit. And usually when I'm burning that, I first, let me say, when you're burning the herbs here, you're doing it with an intention. So when you light it and you're going around your space, you're holding in your heart, this is my space. This is what my intention is. You're not asking, you're basically commanding. It's your birthright to have a clear space and clear energy. So it isn't asking. It's very gratefully and with great respect that you're commanding for this to happen. This is what is going to happen. So what was my point?
We have those days too, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like, well, what was I talking about?
It's about the intention. When you find a herb or you're called to burn a certain herb, rather than having a specific intention, just have the thought of I want this burned for its greater good. Whatever the universe intended, just let it kind of be an open intention on the highest vibration or for the greater good. Add something positive to it. Just
Everybody involved?
yeah, absolutely. And you'll know that's the thing. If that's what you're called to say as you're burning it, then that's what you do.
I was going to ask, what is it like for you when you're called to a certain herb? How do you know? Like, what is?
Like, how do I know I'm being called
Yeah.
to it?
Yeah.
It just stands out. It's just there.
You're
Like you.
attracted to it.
Oh yeah, like absolutely. There's, hundreds and hundreds of plants all around, and I got like, yeah, and I got 2 kids or 3 kids with me, and I'm just like, I've got to go to that plant, right? And once you do that a few times, once we start paying attention to the little signs,
Yeah.
that it becomes stronger, right? So at first we'll walk by it, but we kind of like
You
think,
wanted to, but you don't.
yeah.
And then next time you do.
Yeah. It's
Next
basically
time.
the universe is like, oh, she's listening now. So then you just pick it up that much faster. So you can go to the plant, and my own thing is I always ask the plant, is it okay if I take a piece, just out of respect? It is.
I've never thought of doing that.
Yeah.
I've never smudged, but I mean, I've never thought of like asking.
Yeah.
The plant.
And giving thanks to it. I haven't recently, which having this talk now, I probably should. I used to bring something with me, like 'cause I collect a lot of willow because I like making willow art and that. So I would always bring like a little herb mix that I would make, and I would lay it at the bottom of the willow tree, just as in thanks, right? Because you're taking some of what it's offering. So that's an extra step, and if that's called into your ritual, then absolutely do it. But the main thing is you can have an intention, but you don't always have to have an intention. You don't have to use a specific herb or a specific resin. If you're called to, then do it and burn it the way that you feel, and hold the thoughts that you are being called to hold, right? So it doesn't have to be on burning sage to clear space. If you're burning sage and you're feeling called to just give thanks that day, then just give thanks. Like there's no right or wrong way of doing it. So some of the different herbs in that, again, most commonly is the white sage. This is burned to definitely clear a space. It can be burned to purify a space. It's the one people are most familiar with, so it is the big go-to one. And if someone's starting out, that's generally what they'll start out with. Cedar is kind of the next one. It's very common as well, and it's very local, so you can clip your own pieces. Again, I always ask the tree first, and give thanks to it in whatever way, but you can find cedar pretty much anyway, and it works just as well as the sage does. It's actually one of the 4 native medicines. So there's the sage, the sweetgrass, the cedar, and the tobacco.
Tobacco. Okay. You ran that. I worked in it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so dirty.
Yeah.
Tar. So you know what you're smoking. All right. When I smoked, I knew what I was smoking.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yes. So again, the cedar and the sage are very commonly used for clearing a space. Mugwort, another name for mugwort is black sage. So it is part of the sage family. White sage is not local, it's California. That's basically it. And unfortunately, it is being harvested very unsustainably right now. We are in the process of growing some indoors, just because there are literally hillsides being ripped out from us Westerners going there.
Yeah.
Yep, and ripping it all out, and they're coming back with truckloads. So we've planted seeds, and they are very hard to germinate. So any good energies you guys want to put out to that would be fantastic, because we really don't want to participate in any of that.
Greenhouse is full.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not in it, like it's not, it can't go through the winter, so that you do have to grow it indoors. The mugwort, or the black sage, on the other hand, it is grown locally. I haven't found any, but it's basically a weed. I've been on the lookout for a few years now, but I got a couple foragers that are willing to come out with me this summer, so cross your fingers, we'll be able to find some. But mugwort is, again, it can be used to clear a space. It has a huge protection element to it, and the reason it has that is because a lot of psychics and mediums will drink mugwort tea before a reading. So mugwort is fantastic for inducing your psychic abilities, vivid dreams, very colorful dreams, prophetic dreams. So not only is it drank just before a reading, a lot of people use it just before bed. So whether they have it in a tea or they just put a little piece under their tongue. Generally, I'll put a piece under my tongue before I go to bed.
Okay, so I already have lots of colorful, vivid, sometimes prophetic dreams.
Uh-huh.
I would be afraid to do. Does it like, is there any effect to it other than it just brings out the psychic ability?
It,
Like, does it make you feel tired or feel more relaxed or trancy or?
no, like it doesn't make you, it doesn't give you like any type of buzz. If anything, it could relax you. Like it is, because when psychics and mediums, they need to be in their element. They need to be like kind of relaxed in order to bring stuff in. Yeah, absolutely. It is very potent stuff though. When I'm not a huge dreamer. I get a lot of my daydream stuff while I'm awake during the day. So at night, unless it's something big and it's an actual message, I don't dream. When I package this stuff or unload my shipment of it for the next 3 nights, like I have very vivid, colorful, amazing dreams. So even me just working with it makes a difference. When I haven't packaged it in a while or that, and I want it, I'll just put like a little leaf underneath my tongue and I'll go to bed. Not only my own experience, I've heard lots of other people telling me their story of it works for a few nights and then you kind of need to take a break from it. So it's one of these ones that it'll kind of wear out its magicness until you've had a break with it. But it is very potent stuff. And like I said, a lot of protection with it as well. So this is one of the ones that some people will burn before meditation, not only to open up your psychic connections.
So night terrors, is that good for night terrors?
I've never tried it for that specific reason. I don't know, but I have not, in my own experience, or had anyone else tell me their experience of having nightmares with it. It's always just been very vivid dreams that they can remember, colorful and like kind of with a message. So I haven't heard of anybody getting nightmares from it. I don't know if that would kind of shift the energy of of the dreams, going from terror to more of a. Actually, I'm almost wondering, because it is kind of a prophetic herb, whoever's experiencing the nightmares or night terrors, a lot of times there's a root condition, and I'm wondering if it would tune you into what the root condition is through the psychic connection or getting a message of what is going on. I don't think I've tried with an intention of taking the herb. I just always kind of wanted a message type thing. I'm sure though you could go in and like go into it with the intention of, can you prophetically tell me through my dream why I'm getting the night terrors, or what's the root condition behind that? That might work. It might give you some more insight to it. Yeah. I feel like you want to say something more.
Oh, I do, but I don't.
Do. It's just
Yeah.
the three of us. We're all friends.
Okay. Well, you can always message me or come in another day and we can chit chat for sure. Yeah. So very, very powerful mugwort. I love that herb. Lavender, which I actually didn't bring up. Lavender is actually commonly burned just for the sedative effect. It's a very calming aroma. It also is very protective. So some people will burn that, again, going into meditation or something like that, because it is very calming and it has that protective element. And it's,
You know you can burn it.
yeah, you
I
can
grow it.
burn pretty much any herb to some extent. And you can Google pretty much any herb and it will give you the spiritual properties of it. Every plant, there's a reason it's here.
Yeah.
Whether it's medicinal, spiritual, it doesn't matter. There's a purpose and there's an energy behind it. So yeah, we work with a lot of different herbs. Like our herb mixes, which we'll get into in a minute, have about 10 or 15 different herbs in each one that all kind of help the whole intention of what that is. So if you got lavender, yeah, at the end of the season, snip it up and hang it, and not all of it, just take some of it. And the blossoms are fantastic to burn as well. Yeah, you got a little treasure. Wormwood. Wormwood is very toxic. It is not one you want to ingest. And even when I burn it, I just burn a little bit at a time. Like if I was going to do my main floor type thing, I might only burn the first inch or two. What it does, and it's pretty powerful too, is it is opening the lines of communication. When you burn wormwood, you're saying, I'm talking to someone. So it does have a protection element to it as well. I always burn something else with it. Generally, I'll actually burn one of the resins, but we'll go over that in a minute. I'll burn something that has a lot of protection in it because you're opening up. And always when you're burning it with that intention, have that intention solid in your heart. You know, I want to connect with someone, an energy of the highest vibration of divine love, of something. Put that intention that you're going to get a higher vibrating energy.
And that's with wormwood.
Wormwood. That's basically with anyone, but just because wormwood is extremely powerful in opening up that, have that intention even more so.
I'm afraid of that one.
Pardon?
I'm afraid of that one.
Yeah? Yeah. Well, then you're meant to work with another one for now. Yeah. And if you're
Just
already...
because of what I experienced.
Yeah, if you're already in
Yeah.
tune to all of that and doing that, then yeah, absolutely. That being said, the sweetgrass is burned most frequently after sage, and the whole or separately by itself. The whole intention behind burning sweetgrass is bringing positive energy in. So sweetgrass, as much as it clears it out and it invites positive energy, the whole intention behind sweetgrass is to bring in that positive energy. So if I'm using wormwood or even the mugwort and a protection herb, every once in a while I'll burn sweetgrass with it because it's, you're burning these ones to say, like, I'm opening up, I want to communicate. This is going to invite only the highest vibrations. So sweetgrass is a nice one to burn. So I'm wondering if sweetgrass might be beneficial for you in some way of just inviting in that positive energy. The yerba santa is one I'm just becoming more familiar with. We've had a lot of people come in and ask for it. But generally the theme behind the yerba santa is very similar to the sage. So it's very good at cleansing a space, purifying a space, and just basically getting out the lower vibrations and inviting in the positive. Those who don't like the smell of sage is a love or not love scent, yerba santa's a little bit stronger than sage is. So if you find sage strong, yerba santa, you may want to try it, but you may not totally love the smell. One thing with smudging is you don't have to like the smell. I say it's a good quality to have. You don't want to be smudging your house with something that makes you feel nauseous. So I mean, there are people who can't do sage, and they're all stressed out because they heard it was sage and it's supposed to be sage. It's like, no, if it's making you nauseous, that's really not bringing the energy up for yourself or your home. So if you can find one that you feel works good for you and you enjoy the scent, then absolutely use that one. Palo Santos, or
I have that.
otherwise known as holy wood. This is commonly burned in churches still. Fantastic. It's got a beautiful scent to it. You basically are just lighting the end of it and going through your home as if it was one of the smudge sticks as well. With the smudge sticks, when you're lighting it, you're going to want to hold something underneath it, and you're going to catch the end of it on fire, whether you use candle or lighter or what have you. Let it burn for 20, 30 seconds, let a good flame, but hold it straight up. If you hold it like this, your fire is going to climb up and you're not going to like that too much. So always just tip it straight up so the flame goes up until you get a good set of embers going on the end, then blow it out. And then you can go through your home and just let it smoke. Some people will say it doesn't stay lit. Generally, just when you're walking like this, it's bringing airflow this way. It should keep it going. If you're having a hard time keeping it going, just light it again and let it burn for 45 seconds or so. It will burn very quickly though if you just leave it fully inflamed, so you want to blow it out at some point. Again, other people will, when they say it keeps going out, they're lighting it and just setting it down. It's really not gonna, unless you got a small fan going on it, and I've suggested that to people, but you need to be moving to get the
Needs
flow.
air current.
Absolutely. And when you're going around, you know, there's sometimes I do a quick smudge. I just kind of go around and get as much as I can. And there's other times where you want to do a more thorough one, and that's when you're opening up closets a little bit and getting underneath the bed and in all the bedroom, or sorry, all the bathrooms and in the closet and the shower and all of that too. Another thing is a lot of people feel like windows have to be open, they have to be closed. You have to start from the bottom and go to the top to the bottom, or you know, you got to start in the north and go all the way around. It's completely up to you. There's
Part of their ritual.
absolutely, well, it's right for them.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like whatever I'm saying here to you right now, only believe it to a certain extent until you have your own experience with it. Because what's totally right for me may definitely not be right for you. So to them, that is their truth.
I like the freedom of that.
Pardon?
I like the freedom of that.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are scared they're going to disrespect some spirit or do it the wrong way. And my thought on it is they're just happy we're all interested. Like the universe is just like, you know, thank God. Who cares if they're doing it wrong? There is no doing it wrong. They're just grateful that there's more and more people turning to this kind of stuff.
But do you walk it to the door though?
If that's what you're called to
And-
do.
Or the window, if the window's open, and then that, if there's negativity, it can go out, find a way.
You can, absolutely. Myself, sometimes I'll open my windows. Like if I know I'm going to burn half a stick just because I really want to smoke my place out, I'll open the window. Not necessarily for that. A lot of people do. But for me, in my mind, when I'm smudging, the smoke is transmuting it. So it's not like it, for me, it's not like it has to get out. It's like it's being transmuted right there. It's going from that energy and basically being cleansed right in the spot. So I don't always have my windows open. That's not part of my ritual or my truth. It's right there as the smoke is touching it. It's being transmuted. But if you're called to open your windows, then absolutely. And I mean, it may be because you have so much energy going on that could be why you're being called to open your windows, because you know, to let it out and kind of start fresh again. So for me, I don't have too much of that energy going on, so maybe that's why I'm not called to open my windows. And
So you're not supposed to boot them out if there's.
if you don't want them there, if there's one's energy that's making you uncomfortable, you can command them to leave. That is your space. If they're not bothering you and you know you're kind of okay, then you can set up boundaries, right? It's still your space. So if you're constantly being chattered at night by a positive energy or a higher vibrating energy and it's annoying you, you can say now is not the time. Like, nope, we're not doing this. If it is something that's making you uncomfortable, you can flat out say, you know what, this isn't your space. You are being told to leave, like right now. And it's a command. It is your birthright. You have the power within you to clear your space. And once you've empowered yourself, you feel more comfortable in whether or not you want that energy there. So once you feel empowered and you know you can have this energy leave when